I've read a shit ton of books in my life, and I've pretty much forgotten 90% of that information, if not more. And I know that I'm forgetting a bunch of stuff that could drastically improve my life or improve the skills that I'm working on. The purpose of this channel moving forward is pretty much to focus on step number 2 of the Feynman technique, of how Richard Feynman used to learn anything. So that's either to teach it to myself or teach it to someone else. I'm no learning expert. This is pretty much a journey from the ground up of learning how to learn. I'm not Mike Ross from Suits who can remember everything with his photographic memory and can apply it. I wish, but I'm just an ordinary person with a bunch of interests that's trying to become extraordinary. So how do I plan on utilizing my knowledge moving forward so I can apply it to my life and just start remembering things that I read? It's going to start with these three boxes, which make up my analog Zettelkasten, something I literally just learned about. It's basically a personalized knowledge management system. And the point of it is, if you know Wikipedia, you use all the notes that you have to link them back to each other where it's relevant. And I think all knowledge in its essence is linked in some way. So you start creating these connections and it'll help you remember things more and actually help you create things that you never would have thought before. So inside my Zettelkasten, we have a bibliography box, a main box, and an index box. If you want to build your own Zettelkasten, I would start with the index box. It can get super complicated, but if you want to get started right away, this is the easiest one to start with. It's basically 26 note cards that's labeled A to Z for each letter of the alphabet, and that's where you'll be pretty much indexing all the main cards from your main box. Okay, so let's look inside the bibliography box now. This is basically a box where I'm storing all the notes that I read from books, things I hear that catch my interest from podcasts and even TV shows, right? I have a section for nonfiction, fiction, and a section for, if I could find it, even a section for my own personal thoughts and reflections that maybe I want to remember that I journal about every single night. So I have a section in the back for that as well. And basically, these are the foundation and building blocks for your main cards. And they're the building blocks for the content that I create for myself as well. And this is the main box, and arguably the most confusing part of this personal knowledge management system, the Zettelkasten, at least for me. Um, Basically, these represent the core focus areas that you're interested in documenting and learning about. Most general Zettelkasten knowledge tells you to categorize it by the social sciences, and I just find that just way too confusing. And at the end of the day, your personal knowledge management system only has to make sense to one person, and that's you. So the core focus areas that I personally created for myself is wealth, health, relationships, spirit, like spirituality, writing, and learning. Those are pretty much the core focus areas that I'm interested in right now. Okay, so back to the core focus of this video, which is using my pieces of knowledge to create. I actually have a different name for my personal knowledge management system. I call it a knowledge constellation. This is going with step 4 of the Feynman method of learning anything, creating an analogy. Zettelkasten literally means, I think it's German for like note card in a wooden box or something like that. That's the little translation. I've been calling it a Zettelkasten because if you wanted to know more in depth on how to build one, there are way better teachers on YouTube other than me. I've just been stringing together a bunch of videos that make sense to me and just started building it myself because I know if I thought about it too much, I would just get overwhelmed and not build anything at all. Let me tell you why I like the analogy of constellation, though, in knowledge constellation. Constellation, depending on where the Earth is and the visual of the sky, all the stars that are there, it's not like different stars appear every single night, right? Depending on the rotation of the Earth and the visuals, you will see different alignments of the same stars. That's why sometimes you get the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, Orion, but they're all part of the same blanket of stars. You just see them differently and you can see the connections between them. I find that to be similar to what we're building here with this personal knowledge management system. As you create more connections with your notes between different ideas and you create a new main card with that, it's like you're creating a new constellation in itself. So what we're going to do today is actually I have a weekly newsletter and we're going to use the bib cards that I've created so far and throughout the week to create a main card which I'll base my weekly newsletter off of. So I'll be back once I find a good topic that I want to write about that I can connect new ideas to, and then you'll see how I turn that into a main card and eventually into my newsletter. Okay, now it's time to do the actual work. This week I want to write about reframing challenges, and over here I have a stack of bib cards that I think could be connected to this idea or is directly connected to this idea. This right here is my own personal anecdote of teaching it to myself. So this is step 2 of the Feynman method. So I'm going to actually add on to this by doing step 4, which is create an analogy, metaphor, or story. And the thing that comes to mind with this is it's like grinding in a video game to reach a new level. So like the basis of this week's topic is basically that challenges are necessary. We all know that, but it's scientifically proven that, once we face discomfort, your brain actually goes through some neuroplasticity. But anyway, we're going to go through all these bib cards. I'm only going to do one example and then we'll cut right back when I'm finished filling this out. But to show you how I do it, so if we take this bib card here, The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker, and I look at all my notes that I've written on this bib card, I'm going to choose the one which is this one here on page 55, temporary uncomfortability is required of any new decision. It's not directly talking about challenges, but it's connected, right? Every time you want to pursue something new or make a new decision to do something else, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? You're going to suck. And that's why the uncomfortability comes in. So I'm going to use this as a source on this main card here. So what I usually do is I'm going to highlight it. This gives me a sign when I review this card in the future that I've used this on a main card. And over here, I'm going to write C. I'm not sure if this is the right citation format or not. It's just what I've been doing. Again, the system only has to make sense to you, right? So C, Barker, Power of Decision, page 55. I'm going to write exactly what was on that note here. So temporary uncomfortability is required of any new decision. Now, to add on to this, I'm not just going to leave it there, right? I'm going to keep going through the loop of the Feynman method. So basically, I'm going to add my own personal take on this. So, temporary uncomfortability is required of a new decision. So, this feeling stems from knowing we're going to suck and or a fear of a learning curve. Right? I'm just adding on to that note, and just injecting my own thoughts. In this case, I'm not giving my perspective. I'm just adding on to that thought. So I'm going to do this for all these bib cards here, and then I'll come back when it's finished and filled up. Okay, we're back from creating this main card using this stack of bib cards here. As you can see, I almost filled up the whole thing front and back. If you ever come to this point, don't be afraid to make two main cards out of this. So I'm going to use this main card now to write the newsletter for this week. And if you want to check that out, the link will be in the description. Hopefully that was somewhat insightful. Remember, it's not about creating the perfect system, but a system that works for you. That's why it's called a personal knowledge management system, right? I'm basically shoestringing a bunch of stuff that makes sense to me. And as I learn more about learning, I might change up a bunch of stuff. Who knows? And that's the basis of all my videos moving forward. So I'll catch you on the next one where I stack some more knowledge and you'll see how I use that.